Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Harvey County Talk. As always, I'm your host, Lance Gormley. Our guest on the program today is Aryn Sissy Cheney. How you doing today, Sissy?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Good. I can't complain. It's a beautiful day. We're both here ready to cuss and discuss Sissy's life. And Sissy is somebody that we know on the program pretty regularly, especially early on. And there's been a lot of question about who Sissy is, where Sissy came from, how Sissy got here, and why Sissy's here. Right, Sissy?
Indeed.
I gotta love it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, as anybody watching, you're probably expecting Chad to be here, but Chad is on vacation. And Sissy was going to come out and she was going to do the HCTalk program. And we talked a little bit about it. And it was like, well, why don't we just use this opportunity for people to get to know a little bit more about Sissy? And Sissy agreed.
And here I am.
All right. Okay, Sissy. So, as always, people know when I start the program that I just ask a couple questions about where you hail from, school, the whole deal. So I know you're an avid listener and follower of the program. You know how the style of the Harvey County Talk program goes. And I guess, well, where were you born, Sissy?
Western Kansas, in the sticks.
In the sticks? They just birthed you out in the sticks.
They did. Just right on the side of the road. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, right. Well, I was going to say, pert near. Right. Surely somebody waved as it was happening and they were driving by.
Probably a couple. Hey, you need any help with that? I got some chains. Right?
I got some chains. Yeah. Is she coming out okay?
Yeah. Feet first, right?
Yeah. All right. No joke. All joking aside. So Sissy, Western Kansas, like where at? Give me more specific.
Right. So Ransom, Kansas.
Okay.
Nestled right between Colby and Hayes. Like an hour and a half one way and an hour and a half the other way.
Okay.
You know, little teeny tiny town, but it was the metropolis of the time when I came along, and it was the only local hospital that was close by.
Right.
And actually lived in Utica, Kansas, which is a very small town out that way on Highway 4. And, you know, the old adage is if you blink, you miss it.
Yeah.
Almost. They have a couple of pretty big signs still that they've added in recent years to help you know, don't blink.
Because you'll miss it,
right?
I love it.
So, but yeah, small town, dirt roads, gravel streets, whatever you want to say, you know, if it rained hard, then we were walking, you know, type of thing. So, you know, a little bubble of goodness.
When you say small town, some people think Newton is a small town. So
no.
What do we...
208 people.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So you could throw a stone from one side of the town to the other.
Well, maybe not quite that.
Half over.
Oh, yeah.
It'd take you 2 times.
You know, a good football star could probably, catch in the middle of the town or throw it to the middle of the town for the catcher. But, no, and the used to say 208 people if you count all the cats and dogs, right?
Yeah,
but, it was actually people.
Okay.
And... the town was probably a little bit bigger in the mid 70s when I came along than it was when, we moved back there as youngsters. So, but yeah, about 200.
So when you went to school, I'm guessing, like I mentioned with anybody that goes to a small school, you probably had a lot of options to participate in things. It's not like people were tripping over each other to get to play on the basketball team or anything like that. So when you went to school there, you went your whole years to school there, or
5th through 11th?
Okay.
In my younger years, we lived in Houston, Texas, and we let's see. When I was born, let me start over. When I was born until about age 4 or 5, maybe 5, I don't know, my birthday's late in the year, so I had to wait until I was 6 to start school. I believe that we were in Utica, and then we moved a couple of times in there, and so I went to kindergarten. I don't even know where I went to kindergarten. That's been how long it's been.
Not Utica,
right? Not and part of first grade, or maybe the whole of first grade, I went to a little town called Dighton, Kansas, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump down the road from Utica.
Another metropolitan area.
Yeah. And then Houston schools until the start of 5th grade, and then we were back in Utica then. And we stayed put then as a family until the summer before my senior year, when we moved to Heston. And So I went my senior year to the giant high school of Heston, Kansas, and I think I graduated one of 60 kids, which blew my whole world apart. Going from 5 people in my class, basically the whole of Utica, 5 to 11, to 60 in Heston for senior year.
Did you what kind of extracurricular activities were you involved? Did you like to play sports? Were there sports? Kind of how did that work out?
Right.
I mean, that's not quite a baseball team.
Right. In Utica, basically anything you wanted to participate in, you could. Band was required, music was required, but as far as sports, all of those were electives. They would love to have you, obviously. So if you were a warm body, basically, and you could do anything, which anybody can do anything, obviously slap on a uniform and show up to practice, type of a thing. So I even did, I believe, 1 year of cheerleading, if you can believe that.
How did they take you like that when that you cheerlead for what? The volleyball team is down when you're not on there, right? You didn't have enough people to play.
Right. And, we did sometimes, like in band, pep band, right? During high school basketball, football games, sometimes you did it in your uniform, whatever you had on. Because sometimes the girls always played before the boys. Sometimes, we would have our ball uniforms on or cheerleading uniforms on and be playing in the pep band, So, and vice versa with the guys, So we did, we had musicals and we had dramas, the plays and things. We did forensics, participated in one-act plays, and we did pretty good. But, it's a 1A school. Yeah. And so we have just our competition was other 1A schools. So, I think coming from a small town mentality and kind of having the world at your fingertips, so to speak, I think really allowed me to grow as to welcome the days of Heston when I became a little fish in a giant pond.
Yeah, 60 other kids in your class.
No, yeah, right. So I might have known 15 people. I knew a lot of people, but I really only knew 15 people, and that was like my whole high school in Utica, right?
Yeah.
So, everybody was 15. I think there was 13 of us. So,
That's awesome. But, just resting on there a little bit, you had mentioned that, of course, you did most of your middle school into high school out there, but then your senior year you moved. Did you kind of just, we talk about self-awareness and identity and stuff, and moving a senior year to another community could probably be kind of difficult for people. Did you have a hard time? What do you identify as? Do you identify as a Utica whatever,
a dragon or a swather,
or are you a swather?
I really never thought of it that way.
You thought of it of a dragon riding a swather?
Oh, well, maybe the dragon helping the swather move a little quicker. I don't know. Breathing fire to remove obstacles. I don't know.
Those are two cool mascots.
Yeah, I don't know. I really hadn't thought of it, because I've gone to college and, I've been a Fort Hays Tiger and a WSU Shocker, and I don't even know what Baker University mascot is. I really don't. Maybe they don't have one. Surely they do. Yeah. I just don't know what it is. So I really don't know that I identify as anything, but I would always say that my most memorable school years is a dragon in Utica.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And it might have to do maybe with just the size and the closeness of the people, and just you really have no other opportunity except to build close relationship with people. You can't get away from anybody, right?
Right. Well, and you're like a big family.
Yeah.
A little too intertwined at times for my liking, but there's a camaraderie that exists in a smaller community, and some people that move into Newton from bigger cities might find that they identify with that. What I'm saying is, you get to know your neighbors, you get to know your little centralized, you get to know the centralized location, you get to know. If you go to the same grocery store, the same doctor's office, you get to know pockets of people that become your community. And there's a safety or a feeling of security that you might not know if everyone you encounter is a stranger.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm partial to Utica on another element too, or another piece of it too, because shortly after we moved away, within, I don't know, 5 years or so, the school closed, and they consolidated with some nearby towns, I think. And Utica was already a consolidated school district with some other rural counties. There was like 4, I think. 4 portions of 4 counties that consolidated to send their kids to Utica. And so it was a hard thing for the town, because you lost all of your educators that would come in, move into town and bring their families. You lost, the revenue of people coming in for ball games. Utica didn't have a whole lot of amenities to offer. We didn't have, we had one restaurant. We had a tiny grocery store, one gas station, basically. Well, I guess we had 2 restaurants, because we had the saloon that served food at certain times of certain evenings of the week or whatever. But basically, you had your all-day cafe, and then you had that. And so, but any loss of revenue really just takes the town down pretty quickly. I mean, we've seen that with Newton. You have a new business come in, everybody loves it, and all of a sudden, whammo, it's closed. Well, where do all those people go that need a job? Hopefully they can be absorbed in another. But now we're seeing growth. So our little town, the biggest little city I've ever lived in is what I like to call Newton. There's growth now. So we're seeing new people coming into the community. If you watch the social medias, in fact, just yesterday there was a gal that was saying, due to her husband's job, they're looking around at settling in Newton or relocating to Newton. But other towns around also said, hey, this is a nice deal. People said, this is a nice town, this is a nice town, the schools or whatever. That was one of the things she asked about.
Come to Harvey County and we'll fight over you.
Right.
We'll have city wars over who gets to pull you in and what we have to offer you.
Right. So, there's a draw. And anytime you have growth, you get publicity, and it's all good. And Newton is really trying to change some things. One of the things about Newton that's different than Utica or even Heston is I'm an adult here. Yeah. So I see everyday life, that culture that I have in a different way than I did as a kid. My parents worried about that then, right? Yeah. The adults worried about that stuff. Well, now I'm the adult, and I have a child, and so she doesn't see it the same way I do. Right. She gets to see her friends during the summer. She's tickled pink, Yeah. So, it's all good, but it's a huge difference, Newton culture, than it was in any other place I've ever lived. Yeah. And I've moved away and moved back, moved away and moved back. So here we are. We're here.
And okay, so you had mentioned some of your college years. Just kind of tell me what your life looked like after you got out of high school. Did you go directly into college, or did you go to college later on, or how did that work?
Right. I was a college freshman at age 30.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I had a lot of years where I just worked.
So what give me one thing that you did that you really enjoyed? I mean, because I don't know if you'd had multiple jobs or whatever, but what's one thing that you did that you really enjoyed from graduating until choosing to go back to college as a returning adult?
Sure. So I worked for a company called Northview Developmental Services Incorporated, and for those that have been around Newton a while, probably remember that. They were bought by ResCare later on, but what I did at Northview is I worked with people with developmental disabilities, and that whether that was cognitive, like mental retardation, or whether that was physical handicaps. I worked with them in a plant setting in North Newton, and I loved every minute of it. And then when they were bought by ResCare, I worked as a job coach in the community with them. Okay. And so that was probably my favorite. My second favorite is working for the Sheriff's Department. Okay. I worked for them as a youngster. And I say youngster, I was about 25, I think, when I started there. And I worked in the detention center. And as the longer I was there, the more I got to be involved with some other duties, like, going to court and doing some warrant work and some transports here and there. But my main job was working in the detention center. And I really enjoyed the camaraderie of that. I had a lot of really good relationships from that time. But it all kind of changed for me when Kurt died, Kurt Ford. And so I had to really think about whether or not I wanted to do it as a career or whether I wanted to not. And ultimately, within a year or so after that, I chose not. And I do miss it sometimes. I wonder where things would have taken me with all the changes and the different sheriffs that have been in and things like that. So.
So Sissy was a Harvey County Sheriff's deputy.
I was. Yeah.
A detention officer. I don't know if there's a clarification. I mean, they're all deputies, but there's road deputies, right? Or road officers, and then there's detention deputy officers. So you were a detention deputy. We talk. I've talked with. I've had multiple interviews, as I know with Sheriff Chad Gay, Under Sheriff Sean Chapman, even up into Deputy Hinton, who is a road patrol officer with the K-9 unit, and I know many law enforcement officers, and I just have a deep respect for the public service that they provide. I'd say one that's often overlooked is a detention deputy because, that can be a difficult job at times, I would think, Sissy.
Well, and I think for women, it's a little bit harder because 90% of the inmates there that we're observing and supervising or, helping take care of or however you want to look at it are men. And so, as you can imagine, inside the walls, so to speak, it is a different culture. And with the training and with communicating with other people, there's a support system, or there was, and I'm sure it still exists, knowing Sheriff Gay, that, if you were struggling with something, whether as a woman or as a deputy or just in general, there was always a people that you could confide in and you could get assistance working through that, because obviously they want you in the best health and mind frame, to be able to do your job well. And I dealt with a handful of different situations that I've never dealt with anywhere else and haven't still to this day, and I'm grateful for that. But overall, if you have an opportunity to work in law enforcement, I would advocate that you do that. Just to get the experience and the training and to kind of see it from an insider's perspective, because a lot of people, they poo-poo the badge because of what we see all the time in movies and TV shows and online and, in real life. And it can be that way, but as a general rule, I think that there's usually it's case by case basis.
Well, you mentioned something, and I just wanted to touch on it. One of the deciding factors about whether to remain doing that or not doing that had a lot to do with the death of a loved individual in our community, who Kurt Ford. And I think as we talk, and I talk with people who are in law enforcement, that hit everybody really, really hard. That hit people hard because we have such a small department that it's kind of like taking you back to Utica High School. I mean, you're talking about a very small group of people that work with one another, especially percentage-wise for the overall community. And so you know these people, you're friends with these people, right? And then when what happened to Kurt Ford happened to him, are you just telling me that what I hear you saying? I mean, I don't know. I'm asking, just was that something that just knocked you back real tough?
Oh yeah. I mean, you in the back of your mind that anything can happen anytime, whether serious or unserious, minor or major injury or whatever, death. But you really don't. It never occurred to me that one of our officers could be killed in the line of duty. And we had another officer that was badly injured, Chris Eilert. I mean, he was badly injured and took a long time to recover. And thank God he did right? Because he's done an amazing job in his law enforcement career, and he's just an overall good guy, right? And he's got a lot to offer from that experience, but he had that to offer before that experience, but now it's just more, you know. But it you know, with Kurt, I looked up to him as like a role model. And okay, so I'm gonna try to do this without getting misty. But you know, he had just recently returned to come work for the sheriff's department, and he had a lot of things on the move and working, and we were all very, very excited about, you know, him coming back and offering, you know, his career so far. You know, he had been chief of police at Heston and had done a wonderful job over there. He had done a lot of great things in Colorado, where he relocated back to Newton from. You know, he had a family. I mean, he wasn't going anywhere. And so there was a lot of hope for what good things would be happening in our sheriff's department and on our team. And then whammo, you know, and the hardest part, I think, for me was just the overwhelming fear of, if that can happen to my friend out there, what can happen to me in here? And so I was married at the time, and there was some discussion about that, the safety element. And it was just decided that, you know, I really didn't think my heart was in it anymore. And when I got to that point, looking back on my training and looking back at, you know, conduct of an officer and things like that, I really felt like I was going to start compromising. And I couldn't let my team down, and I couldn't let myself down. So I decided to move away from law enforcement for a time. I had always intended to go back, but I wanted to go back in a different position. Yeah. And it just never has worked out for me. And so, you know, yes, it took me way back. Yeah. It knocked me on my tail when Kurt died.
I think it did a lot.
Everybody.
Yeah. I think it did a lot of people.
Definitely.
So from there, then, I'm guessing when you said you were, you know, X amount of years when you were a law enforcement officer, then the years that you said you spent there, at this point in time is where I'm understanding you decided I'm gonna go back to school. Mm-hmm. So kind of give me the short and skinny on that. You said you were a shocker, right? Mm-hmm. So did you graduated from WSU?
I did.
Okay, and then what did you graduate WSU with?
Sure. Well, I'll start at freshman college at 30. I decided to go to Baker University to their School of Adult Learning in Wichita. It was evening classes, and I got my associates in business management and business management. Okay, I think. Yeah. I really can't remember. I thought there was another piece of that, but it's been a while.
You took some minors. I mean, you take some minors. Yeah. So,
and then I had a little bit of a break, and my daughter came along, and after she wasn't born yet, I decided to go back to Baker to the same evening school in Wichita to try to get my undergrad, my bachelor's. And I started doing that for a time and realized this is just really not a good fit for me. Mm-hmm. So I contacted WSU and I talked to a wonderful lady named Lisa, who was in their admissions counseling office. And I basically just poured my whole heart out to her and my whole life story and said, "Here, this is my situation. Can you help me? Because this is what I want to do." Yeah. And she did. She worked a miracle, and I transferred from Baker to WSU, and I graduated in 2015. With my undergrad in criminal justice, sociology, and business.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you're a shocker through and through then, right?
I am a shocker when it counts, you know. Yeah, but I was also a tiger. Right.
Yeah. But yes. So speaking of tigers, you weren't done with a bachelor's in criminal justice.
I wasn't. I laid out for a couple of years and thought, well, I could get a job now that I have a degree. And I did, and I worked in an office for a while, and just, man, I just was, you know, given everything to that job. Yeah. And my little girl is growing up, and I'm going, man, we don't even have an hour together of every day. I mean, something's got to change. And so I decided that I would go for my master's degree, my graduate degree, and I decided on Fort Hays. And I got my graduate degree in political leadership and public service in 2022.
Wow.
I believe is what my diploma says.
Not too long ago.
Yeah. The years kind of run together for me, but yeah.
So okay. So then, was that something that you? I mean, Fort Hays is obviously in Hays, Kansas. So
right.
They have an online program. I mean, did you stick around here and do that, or did you relocate out towards that area, or how? Just kind of walk me down that path.
Right. So, after COVID, we decided that we were going to relocate to Western Kansas and try to make a go of it out there, and in turn complete my graduate program at Fort Hays. We were out there during that time, and then when it came time to try to find employment, it was a dry barrel. So we relocated back to Newton so I could find work. And here we are. Yeah,
it's interesting. When I did my graduate degree at Wichita State University, one of the things I studied was they literally call it the Great Migration of many counties out in western Kansas are seeing population deficits, or they're going down in major percentages. And it seems as though Harvey County, Reno County are two really, well, I don't know. It's the projected migration of those that are leaving Western Kansas. The mass majority of them are going to be coming to Harvey County or Reno County because of the transition to smaller communities, but also their ability to have economic stability and opportunity because of the Wichita metro region. I mean, did you see that personally, Sissy? Is that
yeah?
So you're living that. I mean, that's a real thing where you're an educated person looking for employment in an area in which there's not much, and so then where do you go?
Right. So you call it the Great Migration. So as I was saying, the general concept of what people talked about most was, if we don't get new business in here, then we need to create jobs, basically. And, your retail establishments are plentiful out there. Your restaurants are plentiful out there, fast food, low wage jobs and things like that.
Service jobs.
Right. Service jobs that, you might get 20 hours a week, but not enough for benefits. And people are raising families and, trying to save money. They might have high debt. I mean, I don't know. The sky's the limit. A lot of people, I think, are happy. But those are the lifers that have been born and raised out there. There's no different lifestyle for them. But the transplants are the people that are, maybe moving into the small towns to go to college. Yeah. Or know somebody, you might have, come out to get married. Yeah. I mean, they're disenchanted, I think, a little bit. So as far as the Great Migration, yes, I do know a lot of people that at least relocate as far as Hays, or they might have gone west to Colorado, or things like that.
Denver's pretty close out there. You know, and speaking of that, you talked about debt and things. I find it interesting that, well, of course, you graduated school. You have school loans that you've got to pay for, right? So if and the type of degree that you have, I'm going to say, well, how many master's degrees jobs are there out there that need to be filled, especially in that role? I mean, there's not really a whole, not talking bad, but there's just not really a whole lot in way of that. So I guess moving on, you said you came back. So you came back for family, you came back for your little one, to be able to be around family. What did you, when you got back, I'm assuming employment was on your mind. Just walk me through a little bit of what you did when you came back, Sissy.
Right. So it was easy to pick up where we left off for the most part, as far as, rekindling friendships and networking connections and things like that. What I found interesting, though, is I was almost told by a couple of interviewers that I was overqualified with my collegiate achievements. And I thought, wow, overqualified now. Yeah. I was underqualified, so I strove to get qualified, and now it seems like there is a very narrow pool of possible jobs for me anyway. So I was able to find employment finally with the school district, and I'm still employed with the school district and enjoying that. And I have a job that gives me a lot of variety. So, I guess my needs are met as far as a job, but I think that to really strive to grow myself and for my child to grow and for us to make positive impacts on other people to help them grow and be better people, because that's ultimately the goal of my life. I suppose working in the school system is a really good opportunity to make positive impacts on the little ones, because they're our future. I know that's an old cliche, Whitney Houston song, I believe the children are our future, let them lead the way. Well, we were talking recently, you and me and a friend of ours, about the society that we live in. It's changing, and it's becoming maybe more loosey-goosey, for lack of a better term, from some of the traditional values that all three of us, I think I can speak for our friend, all three of us were more of a traditional same with our kids, consistent, and we're consistent on purpose. And when you have a society that surrounds our kids and us, really, because it affects us too, I think, that is ever changing and not consistent in any kind of way, I think it's really hard to not reach a fork in the road. And so I think it's really important that we just look for opportunities to help each other grow and be better people, but not henpeck them. And feel bad when they reject us, right? So anyway, I don't know if that answers your question.
Oh yeah. So Sissy's in the business of changing hearts, lives, and minds of our youngsters in our community, and being a support system for them. I mean, I have a true admiration for that. I'm very thankful for our teachers. I'm really thankful for USD 373. We have our things, but every school district does, and my children have went predominantly to 373. I figure, instead of poking out or picking out and poking at all of the things that we can say negatively, that there's so much positive that's overlooked because of that. But I guess I'm getting to, I got to a point here where I want to throw this out here, because of course everybody's saying, I think I remember Sissy from something or somewhere. At least I remember her voice. And then all of a sudden I see her. There she is, and there she's gone, and there she is, and there she's gone again. But Sissy, I'm going to drop the bomb. How did you get involved in Harvey County Talk, and why?
How did I get involved in Harvey County Talk? Well, my brother called me and asked me to be part of the podcast. And you are my brother.
Oh, no. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, is that why I call you Sissy all the time?
Right.
Okay.
Surprise.
Yes. So, surprisingly, a lot of people didn't know that.
Right.
And Sissy, I just got to say I appreciate it. Right. I knew that we were going to do this, and when I'm stepping out in faith on something, the quality that I look for is someone that will ride or die with me. And I knew, well, you're blood, so you got to do that.
Right.
But still,
family is forever.
But calling you and having you come on, and I remember you thinking, man, I could really enjoy this, and I'd say great minds do think alike, but we don't necessarily think alike, but similar educations and passions and stuff.
Right.
And who knows, maybe at some point in time you birthed it off in my brain that I should be considering things on a political nature. But we cuss and discuss stuff a lot.
Right.
And I just got to say thank you for that. I know that obviously we did a lot in the beginning on a weekly program. We got it off the ground. There was an opportunity for Chad Fry to be a part, and so then, not to say that it just kind of worked out in a way in which Sissy could do other things.
Right.
We've even discussed to sidestep with Sissy because you're a researcher and whatnot, and and I know you're busy in your life and everything when it comes to your day job. But what is one thing that you really enjoyed? I'd say from the beginning, because there was like 6 months there or more when we were just batting it every week and trying to feel our way through the darkness to be able to provide a service to the public.
Right.
And what we have today, because ultimately we got together and started making conversation about things that we really both believed should be something that's discussed, and to teach people that, well, you can do this in a way in which we don't have to agree,
Right.
but, we're still family. How many families are broken apart because they disagree politically?
Exactly.
So give me
exactly.
something. Give me a nugget,
Sure.
Sissy. What did you, let me give me something.
Right. Something specific that we got into in the show, or just in general,
10,000-foot view about the program.
Right. So one of the things that you mentioned is I'm a researcher. I really do deep dives on almost everything because that's the way my brain works. And especially if I see something where it's like, oh, no. That is just absolutely not what the Constitution says.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to reread whatever that is that I'm saying no to, and then try to figure out who is the author of that comment, or who is presenting that information. And then I'm going to try to look into their life and see, are they just being funny for clicks and likes, or are they really mistaken?
Yeah.
And if they're really mistaken and there's somebody that I can approach, I'm going to
It's the Constitution.
here you go. And if you don't know what that means, I can point you in the direction of other people before me that have a lot more education and life in it than I do to back that up, right? But you can't really get any more legit than that. So I read a lot, and my education is a benefit. But I mean, I really think that where I was really motivated is not only to help people become better people, to see their growth and to stimulate their growth, wherever that person's going to go, let's get them going there, right? Because that's a win-win.
Yeah.
But we never stop learning. And we can teach each other. We take turns learning and teaching and coaching and, things like that, helping people manage, and they help us manage and things like that. It takes a village to raise children. We're all still children being raised by our villages. But ultimately, I think that if a person will allow their mind to be broadened, especially in today's society, when you look at politics, you're looking at somebody who's putting on a show.
Yeah.
I mean, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of our politicians are truly knowledgeable, but they're only knowledgeable when how to navigate or circumnavigate obstacles in their path. Well, what's their goal? Are they on a path to power? Are they on a path to a lot of money? Are they on a path to fundamentally change the United States? Well, if all three of those things can be true, but each individual thing can become very negative. So education is important for me, especially from our founding and beforehand. And so I developed a list of authors really quickly. I know that you're probably wanting to move on to something else.
Well, we're getting sort on the program.
Sure.
Sissy.
So authors that I personally have read and underlined and highlighted, and kind of help me in my daily walk. John Locke, Hobbes, Rousseau, de Tocqueville, Montesquieu, Benjamin Franklin, obviously the Federalist Papers. That is the run up to our ratification of our Constitution and why it was important. Akil Reed Amar, he's a man that lives now, and he's written many books about the founding, many books about Abraham Lincoln, many books about the Constitution itself. A very good source of information. And then Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell's a black scholar who has lived during all the influential decades of our society with the civil rights movement and past that. And he brings a perspective of critical thinking. Yeah. And I think that is so important because a person can take in a whole bunch of information, but how do we process it? Yeah. What filters, what parameters, what boundaries do we use? Yeah. Because information is just information if you don't know what to do with it.
Well, and I've said it before on the program, and it was with you. When in a world in which we think that people are lacking common sense, it's not common sense they're lacking, it's critical thinking skills.
Right.
So, Sissy, I appreciate you. Fist bump. Fist bump.
Fist bump.
I love you. I appreciate all you've done to be able to empower me and ride with me on this path. And I'm hoping that for many years to come, you'll be a contributing factor to Harvey County Talk. And I know you're just waiting for the right time to come on the program and have a sidestep with Sissy on something. I'm sure of it. You know, we're not going to hold you down to any time constraints or restraints or anything like that. So, I mean, we're coming to the end of the program. I know you know the last question that gets asked everybody on the program for the Harvey County Talk is, you got one chance, Sissy, to speak directly to the hearts and the minds of anybody listening. What do you got to say?
Well, I've said a lot in the last few minutes. Don't be afraid to learn something new. You know, I don't care if it's crocheting, knitting, playing baseball, changing a carburetor on an old car. Read a new book. You know, just try something new. Don't be afraid to learn. Keep learning.
The mind is a powerful thing and something that is just a waste to waste. All right, Sissy.
Okay.
Well, there you have it, folks. Thanks for listening to this episode of Harvey County Talk. I was your host, Lance Gormley, and our guest on the program today was Aryn Sissy Cheney. We love you, Sissy.
Love you too, brother.
Have a good week, everybody.